All right, if you guys are into grip training or increasing forearm size and or strength, I think you're really gonna like this video. I didn't want this to be super long, but there's just a lot of great information and background about this particular product and just also ways to maximize this product and why it is so special. I'm talking about this Sport Grips Revolution 2.0. I'm talking with one of the new owners, Nick Rolnick, who along with his dad, Marty, have taken over this company. I've heard about this brand for a long time from some of you guys on the channel that say this is one of, if not the best grip training device that is out there. And that says a lot because there are a lot of devices and things that go along with increasing forearm strength and grip training, a lot of which I don't talk about enough that I'm a big believer and proponent in. And so this is something I wanted to cover for some time. And I realized that the company's going through some transitional changes. They got some really exciting stuff on the horizon. But this one in particular, because, and they went out of their way to really tell me this, because they did this review, they said, you know, dissect and do whatever you want with it. Play with it, which I definitely have been doing that for a while, and I will just say I do love this thing. But specifically, they kind of say that this is the best, hands down, all-in-one kind of grip and forearm training device, which says a lot, but they will kind of go along in this video to explain why that is the case. I've definitely had my fair share of grip training devices. This one, and they get in the video, Nick will get into, you know, why he thinks this thing is great. He definitely says other grip training devices are complementary, but in the way this thing is designed, it's built to last a lifetime warranty, and just the nature of what it can do and the versatility of what it can do, and also the fact that this thing goes from very easy to very hard in just a simple few rotations, and just how hard you can make this thing. Actually, that can even max out even further than that. So very tough. They'll talk about some new products on the horizon that are coming up. So a lot of good information was how to train forearm grip strength, a lot of stuff about, of course, this product. I think it's really cool. You'll probably see it featured more in the future. I could say a lot more about this, but I'm gonna let the owner, Nick, speak for himself. And of course, you're gonna hear my questions in this video. If you guys do want to pick up this product or anything from Sport Grips in the future, they did give me a promo code. Mike10 does save you, I think, $10 off their purchase along with the free shipping. So really great quality product. I've been covering this for some time. I was debating about covering this for some time, just grip training products in general. So this says a lot, honestly, for this one that I did actually want to go ahead and pick this up and try it. So any questions, comments, feedback, let me know in the description box. I know there's a lot of you guys who are fans of this brand and specifically this product. So here is Nick Rolnick. All right, I'm here with Nick Rolnick, who is one part of the company Sport Grips, who I was turned on to this a while ago, actually, from a viewer. And so we'll see how I use this, how this interview kind of goes, or slash interview slash review. But their Sport Grips Revolution 2.0 product, and I had somebody raving to me about it. And then there's so many gripper things kind of coming through. And then I reached out to them and realized a little more information about the company, how they took it over their company recently. So I'll kind of have Nick speak to that a little bit, and then we'll dive in what makes this product kind of unique. There's a lot of things I do like about it right up front. I love that it's USA made. That's really cool. A lifetime warranty designed, I think, right to last your lifetime if you're taking care of it a little bit.
With reasonable use, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're gonna throw it against the wall,
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, you shouldn't be throwing anything against the wall. But if you
Right.
decide to throw your grip strength device against the wall, then yeah, we're probably not gonna cover it.
Well, I do feel like this is next to my bed. This would be a makeshift weapon if someone breaks into the house. So I feel, yeah.
That's what we've been told as well. It's the American-made resiliency of the product, right?
There you go.
It's got a little mass to it.
Yeah. Well, let's just really briefly, like, how did you guys take over the company and just what's that like? Just how that all works out.
Yeah, it actually, my father, Marty Rolnick, he is the other half of the active management, of Sport Grips, and he got turned on to Sport Grips. This company has been around for over a decade and a half, and it's he was looking for top end forearm and grip strengthening products that could replace the wrist roller, because the wrist roller is kind of annoying. You know, you have to have a plate, you have the ropes and everything. And he came across this product that he was like, oh, that looks interesting, and bought it and really fell in love with the product and the product line. And this was, I think, back in 2015, so a decade ago. And he then reached out at some point to Chris Neiman, who is the old owner, and he's a solopreneur, inventor, woodsman, and he started to, like, become friends and started to purchase all the products. There's actually 5 products that Sport Grips had, and we've taken it over, streamlined it into one product, but we're going to be releasing the other product line down the road. But he started to become friendly with Chris, and Chris was having some health issues and wanted to look for an exit. And me, as a physical therapist, I am big on forearm and grip strength. We know that forearm and grip strength just helps with everyday tasks for the average person, but also looks great in short sleeves when you're in the gym or outside. So me being a competitive bodybuilder, it's always about optimizing aesthetics, and I would bring it in and use it with my clients. And one of my clients manages a very lucrative hedge fund, and he brought it into the office, and everyone else in the office started to love it. I mean, basically, because this is so portable and you can use high levels of resistance, people would be, in meetings and just cranking away and getting their forearms pumped. Because again, the biggest thing that we've found in our research online is that most people, maybe not the people watching this, but most people skip training their grip. It's an afterthought, much like calves, despite both of those muscle groups' importance. So anyways, my client was really, into the product, and I brought it to him about purchasing it. And there we go. So he and his partner are the other half of the management, but they're more passive in terms of their hands-on ability. But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun to help update this product, because this was kind of their entry-level product to mass market appeal. And what we wanted to do was just turn it up a little bit and make sure that it has enough resistance profile to take over, 99% of the population, which I think we've achieved. And so the biggest complaint that we used to get from, historically speaking, prior to the update on this product, was that the grip would tend to slip with high resistances. So we wanted to have something that offers a little bit more perch on the grip. And so there you go. Here we have it. Revolution 2.0.
What is awesome about this thing, like you said, is of all the different little mini tools I have, and maybe we can talk about comparing like things like Captain or Crushers or other grippers out there, is that the aesthetics of it I just love, because it is something that I just want to just grab and start working on. So I have so many questions, but maybe they're all kind of practical questions. I think the general person might have when they get to this. Maybe it'd save you some time answering some of these. But what's the advantages or pros and cons of picking up, say, something like this or any of the other million grip apparatus things and training protocols that someone could pick up? Loaded
Well,
question.
first and foremost, American made, USA. We know the political climate, whatever that is, for your side. There's an increased emphasis on American made. We've done, even before this, we wanted to make sure that we were manufacturing in America. We feel, Marty and I both feel very strongly about that, because we want to support the local economies, et cetera. But the issue with traditional forearm and grip strengthening products is usually they're cheap. And when they're cheap, they break. And when they break, you have to continually replace them. And so it's one of those things that when you're dealing with grippers, for example, these can be 15, 20 bucks, and they ultimately break. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a product that is very resilient to not only the average everyday user, but the very aggressive user that is, a strength athlete that's looking to max out the resistance on a daily basis. So having a product that can go from, just by the twist of this, again, these are interchangeable, meaning that they're independent. So if I wanted to just have one forearm worked for whatever reason, say I'm in rehab, I can use that. But you see how easy the resistance is here. I can just very easily twist it with a twist of a couple of revolutions. Now it becomes significantly more difficult. So it's scalable. You should not need to purchase another one of these devices if you've purchased it. Again, caveats being, if you're going to throw it against the wall, submerge it in water. These things are built for heavy long-term use. And so with the interdependent handles, with the high levels of resistance and the way that it's manufactured, it basically can suit you for an extended period of time versus the traditional forearm grippers are, a couple of weeks if you're lucky, and then you got to replace them.
I saw something, I don't know where I wasn't paying attention closely, and maybe I was in your insert, and then I actually got it right here. You gave us a little insert. I do want to get to later on, like exercises, proper uses, can you overdo it, whatever. But the best way to keep this thing lasting forever, because there's essentially kind of like a spring, right? So I want to make sure I'm
Dude.
done with it to like let it all out, ideally, or is
Yeah. So the common issue that people can get is that they leave this completely compressed, and there's two springs in there, and then there's a disc, and basically that allows for the interdependency of the mechanism that's inside of the device to be able to twist it with high levels of resistance independently. So the biggest thing here is the springs have additional wear when you leave them compressed. So even though it doesn't seem like you're really doing much by twisting this, like it is compressing the spring to a degree that gives it high amounts of resistance overall, but adds to its wear when you keep it sustained for a period of time.
okay. And then going back to that question, I know, let's just say this like whatever, Captain's a Crush, very popular. I think it's USA made too, but let's just say a quality made gripper or even
Yep.
like the old school stuff. What would be like this one? I can't grip these all day. Like even though I have a lower one in my office, like I'm gonna use a little bit and I'm like, that kind of wears on me. This, I feel like, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, what's getting me transitioned into like, well, I want to stay on this topic first, actually. What is the of compared to maybe rice, maybe I'm getting two different areas, but let's just say big stuff like your traditional roller, your rice thing, uh, apparatuses like this, or even picking up thick things. I know this is a loaded question, but if someone's goal, which I assume they're picking this up, might be grip strength, but a lot of it is aesthetics, forearms. How would you compare and contrast, like just the gamut
I
of?
think some of these, I think some of these are complementary. I think this makes the wrist roller obsolete because you're able to do the wrist flexion and extension movement, which is what the wrist roller is for, depending on how you're going to be positioning it. Mostly wrist extension in the traditional sense. So you get that on both ends, and it also obvious, it d words are hard, but it removes the need for additional plates like you would with a wrist roller. So it's very portable. Wrist rollers are not as portable, and you're going to need additional equipment. I would say that of all things, if I'm thinking about what could be complementary, it is a distal interphalangeal joint type uh, mechanism for resistance exercise, like a gripper, because the gripper really only works predominantly on two muscles: the flexor digitorum superficialis and the flexor digitorum profundus. These are major muscles that originate on the inside of the elbow that will come. The flexor digitorum superficialis comes here and profundus comes here. You grip, they get heavily stimulated. You
Mhm.
still get some of that with this. Why? Because you can see I am gripping and now I have to stabilize. But in terms of active, compression and relaxation, you don't get that with this device. But for, again, 99% of the population that are just looking to, get in, get out, and get the most out of their exercise, this will solve that goal. For more competitive athletes or bodybuilders looking to maximize their muscle size and their strength, you're probably going to need a complementary product like a gripper to be able to fully maximize that development. And then you also talk about the importance of transverse plane movements. So a lot of the times people, if they do train their forearms, they're training it with wrist flexion, which is down here, right? And extension, which is up here. But remember, we also have rotary movement. We have pronation, supination. And so with this, because the handles are independent, that allows for a rotation resisted movement that you can't get with many other products, pretty much at all. There are a couple of our competitors out there that do similar things, but in a much less aesthetic and less just overall resistance profile type work. So you can get wrist flexion extension, pronation, supination with that. And even, I know you mentioned it before, but like we can do, if, this wasn't shown in our handout, we showed the radial and ulnar deviation just with the resistance of the device, but you can really hold and do resisted radial and ulnar deviation as well. But we have an upcoming complementary product that really does resisted radial and ulnar deviation. But in general, you can accomplish pretty much anything you need to accomplish with this device, given the interdependent handles, the resistance profile, and what it offers from the rotation movement of the device.
Awesome. And you gave, I love the simplicity, just got the exercises right here. Let's just talk about all the stuff that you have. I mean, pretty much I think most people are going to grab it and start doing this and this, but I noticed I had family over the weekend, and I was just feats of strength, even with little kids and older people. I'm like, yeah, see how much you can do this. And you can see
that's exactly what we do, by the way. I think this is one of those products that is very demonstrable, right? You look at it, it looks like, I've had clients tell me this looks like an adult toy. Yeah. I've had clients that have said, oh, this looks like a lightsaber, like a Jedi lightsaber, right? But when you actually get to the nitty gritty of it and try the product, you're like, oh, that's what it does. That makes sense.
Yeah, you feel it immediately. And even after I talked to you guys the other day, just kind of recapping stuff, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'm getting used to it. And then like the other day, I did something where I just upped it maybe a few more. I'm not really counting, but then it went back to exactly how I was feeling it again, because I think I was just training it a little differently. This is the big question too. Well, you can cheat this though, right? I mean, you can, like, if I don't want to use your arm or shoulders, you really want to isolate it, just flexion extension. Can you overdo it or underdo it? I guess overdo it.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm a physical therapist and I have clients. I would say 85 to 90% of my clients have actually purchased this product even before we took it over, because they love the product so much. And I've had a couple of my clients come back to me and have elbow irritation because what they do is they just literally are cranking on it the entire day. It's a muscle, right? Yeah. It's a muscle group. So when you activate a muscle group, all those muscles are pulling on the bone via the tendon. So the tendon can get irritated if you're consistently trying to crank it out. It's a muscle group. So that means that 2 to 3 times a week is probably going to be the best for your longevity, not necessarily cranking on every single exercise every day. For me, for example, I do grip work or flexion extension twice a week, and I do pronation, supination twice a week. So I'm never, I'm not consistently hammering away flexion extension or pronation, supination every day to give the body a chance to recover. But I've absolutely seen medial epicondylitis from aggressive use. And then I said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, oh yeah, like I'm on calls all day and I'm just literally just cranking away. And I
Yeah.
find, and then he went, oh yeah, but guess what? I got to the bottom, the last little ring on the handle. So I'm like doing well. And I'm like, yeah, but you shouldn't be giving yourself unavoidable overuse injury
Right. Yeah.
just by, and again, so that's where I've seen that actually a couple times, but that's just from overuse and really just exactly what you said. It's a beautiful looking product, right? And so you're like, oh yeah, I just want to go and fidget around with it. But you have to remember, when you fidget around with it, you're activating muscles that are pulling on the bone, and thus you can create an overuse tendinopathy.
I really don't like that answer though, because I always want to use it because especially at night, I'm sitting there and it's like I really just, yeah. So you're telling me, well, you're saying so I can't use it every day? I mean, I like to think I'm being mindful about it. I'm listening to
You
myself, like,
can. I
but
mean, listen, without getting too into depth, a lot of low load, long duration type contractions are going to increase tendon strain, tendon stress via muscle damage and what that does with repeated contractions. So like you could, sure, it's fine, but I just wouldn't recommend everyday use, at least if you're doing everyday use of the same movement. So for example, like you could do the sequence there. So that gets you to what, 4 days, right? Well, guess what? You can still do
right. Yeah.
radial and ulnar deviation. That's gonna activate extensor carpi radialis brevis, longus, as well as extensor ulna. Oh my gosh, words are hard.
Well, those are
But
tough muscles.
extensor ulna, extensor carpi ulnaris, etc. So like you're able to do the radial and ulnar deviation. Now you can also do, with some of my clients, they want to increase their thumb strength. They do twisting. And so now you're really just relying on your thenar muscles to be able to move this. And again, this is also a very hand specific exercise because I'm not getting any wrist movement. So there are ways to get around it. I mean, one of the physical therapists that he came up with a brilliant one. So a lot of the hand strengthening exercises in rehab, they go like this. This is working on, if you do this movement right here, this is working on the lumbricals, which are a muscle of the hand, as well as the interossei. So what you can do with this is he has his clients hook this up and then pull up. So then you're pulling into this position and then you get back down and. So this is a specific hand-based strengthening exercise that you can do with the Revolution that we really never even thought about. But he's doing it with his clients and they're like, whoa, like you can get a hand pump because the muscles, there are muscles in the hand, and they're like crazy. So you can get around with doing the product every day. It's just activating the same muscle groups every day is your one-way ticket to, a tendinopathy.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have that. You maybe get that question a lot because when you first use it, that might go through a lot of people's heads where like, yeah, I want to improve my grip strength, but I also could see, well, these are sensitive to the muscles and you feel sore in a different type of way that you might be afraid that this might somehow be hurting you or I'm going to get,
Yeah.
it's like you saw me cracking my knuckles. I'm cracking my knuckles a lot more now that I'm mess with this stuff. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but
Yeah. I don't
yeah.
know either, to be fair.
So, okay. Would you
But
think more heavier loads or more like if you,
so there's really one protocol that we propose, and it's based upon a couple of different rationales, but the biggest one being time, right? As I mentioned before, people don't have time. The majority of people on social media, when they post about grip strength, is that they don't do it, they don't have time,
yeah.
right? That is the consensus. That's not everyone. That might not be your viewers, but the consensus is in the general population, they don't train their grip. So what I wanted to do is, as somebody who's a personal trainer, physical therapist, and very much an expert in exercise physiology, was try to come up with a protocol that makes sense, that maximizes the time spent while also giving a sick and gnarly forearm pump that is expected when you do any forearm strength training. So I played around with it for a while, and the protocol that I came up with is very simple. It's 20 seconds as hard as you possibly can at as high of a resistance as you possibly can, because resistance level is going to be the best overall way to progressively overload. And we'll talk about how I track my resistance profile, because that's something that is a very common question that people ask. And 20 seconds on as hard as you can, 40 seconds of rest. Repeat 3 times. So the entire protocol for wrist flexion extension, pronation, supination, whatever movement you're going to be doing, because you get complementary movements, which is really, maximizes the pump itself. So that feeling of just not being able to do anything is 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Very, very, very simple. At me as a trainer, physical therapist, at the end of the session, that's what I'm doing with all my clients that at least haven't purchased the product. Because if not, a lot of my clients are doing their grip and forearm work on their own because they've purchased the product. So the only other question that I commonly get asked is tracking resistance. So the way that I typically do that, it's built into the product that there's 2 lines that are visible, but really, 4 if you look at the bottom all the way at the top, but really 2 visible lines that we can track in terms of standardizing where the resistance is. For me, I just keep it super simple. I know people like the psychological aspect of how much poundage that they're actually moving, but and that's something that we're actually going to provide at some point, where we need to work on the the way that we're going to present that data. But that's something that at some point we're going to have. But the way that I just do it is I start off in the bottom, and then I'll take my hand and I will just go 1, 2. So I'll track my overload through a relatively full push forward with, or rotation through on the top of the knob. So for me, for example, like I'm doing on this product, this takes 12 full rotations. So I'm doing between 9 and 10 rotations for my exercises. So I'm almost maxed out, but not quite. And I found that to be just the best way to do that. Plus, again, from a physiological perspective, all you need to do is work in close proximity to muscular failure. So whatever that specific piece of resistance is, as long as you're in close proximity to failure, you're going to maximize the stimulus. So the thing is, you just go a little bit heavier, boom, get your 20 seconds of max effort in. And by the time you're doing a really hard one, you're barely moving on that last set, that last 20 seconds sprint. And that's it. You basically, I can guarantee that you just made yourself better, right? If you're because even if you're at the same resistance profile and you're working as hard as you can, you might get 1 or 2 more reps in of the wrist flexion extension. Boom, progressive overload, done. And you just continue on time and time again. And, then you obviously have your circumferential measurements if you're looking for mass and things like that. The biggest thing is, because these are metal on metal, there is some units may begin to squeak a little bit. That's normal. There is a way you can just drip some, like right in between there, some oil. That should help address that. And if the squeak becomes too much, then we'd be happy to replace that. That's an issue that is covered under the warranty regarding like a manufacturing type thing. That's a byproduct of, again, working with just metal on metal. But other than that, the biggest thing that people say, is a little bit of the abrasiveness of the grip. That's by design. Of the minority of complaints that people have given regarding the grip is just a byproduct of how we can make sure that we're delivering maximum traction to the product. So when you're doing high resistance levels, you're not sacrificing, slipping on the product. So what we've come up with, and at some point in the near future, we'll be bringing this to market, is a covering, silicone-based covering that can go over the product that can alleviate some of the abrasiveness of the product if your hands are a little bit more sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically, we take feedback on our product very seriously. I'm 100,000% confident this is the best product on the market for forearm strength. If you're talking about finger strength, let's be obvious, you're not getting direct finger strengthening. You're getting it through the grip, so it's a little bit different. But in terms of devices that are targeting pronation, supination, wrist flexion, and extension in a very compact device, that's this. But this is one of the feedback that we've gotten from a very small percent of people. And again, we welcome feedback. We take that. We're a small business. We're looking to continue to grow. We're going to be in Dick's at some point this summer. We're on Amazon, and we obviously have our website, sportgrips.com, but we're always looking for feedback. But this addresses a significant issue that people have with the abrasiveness if they, have more sensitive hands. But what's cool is, again, this is kind of a hand width away, so it can also be used for gripping a dumbbell, for example, things like that on an off-brand, off-device type usage. So
I can see you even making I don't know if you ever thought of it, but I could see like when I picked it up, especially like I always like a really aggressive knurl that you can make like a beast mode one that's like either thicker or even with like a do you ever get
so this is so again we have the T6 which is product. Again, we've just launched this product in September, but I'm a very how can we make our product the most accessible and just top of the line product. And so a lot of the big time strength athletes that have purchased the product, they have big hands.
Yeah.
Well, part of what's in our pipeline, it's not going to be released in the immediate future because we're going to release this one in the immediate future because that really addresses issue of the product, but that's not really an issue, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So this here is a way that we can bridge to the T6, which is a very thick handle, high end for serious grip strength athletes. So we're just trying to, make sure we're providing alternatives for everybody to be able to maximize their enjoyment, but also the benefits of using the Revolution 2.0.
I must have missed it. So T6 is that on the website already?
No. So it is we just have the Revolution 2.0.
Okay.
And once our product release schedule is going to be the Grip Twister, and the Grip Twister is a frontal plane wrist movement. It's like literally like this thick. And what you can do is you can do resisted pronation, supination, as well as some finger movements because there is a little area to grip. So it's really popular with throwers and any athlete that needs rapid pronation, it is pronation, but pronation and ulnar deviation for throwing. So that's going to be the next one. And then after that is going to be the T6. But the reason why we have the Revolution 2.0 is it really is the most mainstream accessible product that can hit 95 to 99% of the population that is looking for top of the line premium grip strengthening products that last a lifetime. So the T6 is a massive. I mean, it's like it's like if this is the revolution, the T6 is like right out here,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
thicker, so it gets thicker on the inside, and so you can really do resisted ulnar because this piece right here gets thicker, so you can do it's a really beautiful piece of equipment,
That sounds
uh,
awesome. Yeah.
designed for the serious athlete.
Well, and you know the consumer. I mean, even if they can't do it, people are going to want the biggest, baddest thing. So it's,
Yeah, and I mean, and so it's coming, it's coming.
very cool.
It we have we have our product we actually sent to gripstrength.com. So if you're really interested in looking at what the T6 is,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
gripstrength.com carries it. That's our remaining inventory from the old guard of sport grips. So that's available for purchase there. But from an official relaunch from us, we're still a little ways away from that. I
Yeah,
mean,
I've
the
seen.
biggest,
I definitely have seen this one. Yeah, Sidewinder, because the name that
yeah,
rings a bell because people told me about this. Dad, that thing's bad. That thing's cool.
yeah, no, it's
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 it's really cool.
it's serious. But again, if you're looking at grandma Georgie,
Yeah.
that needs grip strength to help her with afternoon tea, like she's not going to buy the T6, but she will, be entertained. I have a couple of older clients that are really love the portability of the product and are finding benefit, in everyday life. And that's really what I care about as a physical therapist. As a bodybuilder, I care about,
Yeah. Yeah.
forearm size, but from a clinical perspective, making things easier for my patients and clients is really of the utmost importance.
Yeah, I don't want to break that point, but I think it's important to reiterate that because I know there's people that are in the maybe older demographic on my channel too, but I could see some people putting this in their hands and yes, it goes super crazy, but some of them might be a little apprehensive, maybe like fearful that like, oh, this might, especially if they got arthritis in their hand, like, well, is this going to hurt me? Do
Well,
you,
my aunt
yeah.
has had treatment resistant hand osteoarthritis, and she's tried everything. And she ended up purchasing the product last year before we changed ownership, and she swears by it now. She's like, I'm able to grip the hand for her dog. She's got a mutt, but a big mutt, and like she's walking the dog, and she's like, yeah, I feel a lot more sturdy in my grip. I used to get reactions from doing all these different things, and this allows me to scale the resistance level to my irritability, right? So some days I might be a little bit more irritable in terms of the hand symptoms than others, and so the fine tooth like resistance profile is such that, yeah, it adapts to her, or it can adapt to where she's at. And I think that is something that's missing from a lot of these other products, is that you get a set resistance level and that's it. So you don't have the ability to really finely tune the flexion extension resistance. You can in some of the grippers. They have the spring that migrates across the end of the device, so you can get more resistance as you kind of get up. So it does accommodate, but from a general implementation perspective, it's really nice to be able to scale it from basically spinning it with little to no resistance to not being able to move it at all. Yeah. Sportgrips.com, but you can find us on Amazon and soon to be on Dick's. And our Instagram account is just SportGrips. And then my personal account, which is more physical therapy, personal training stuff, is the HPM, the Human Performance Mechanic, THEHPM, and that's where you'll find my thoughts on everything, including grip strength, but a
Very
lot
cool.
of a lot of other things.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Nick. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.